Hi again, this is Lisa and we have another week of yoga. This week we'll be doing a yin yoga class, and this is a really nice one because we'll be doing the second half of our class against a wall. So I want you to feel free to find a space in your house where you've got a solid wall. If you don't have enough open area, and I would say something that goes about arm's length in each direction. That's about how much space you'll need on each side of your body. You can also use the side of a bed, the back of a couch, something that has about, I would say, at least 3 to 4 feet of height to it. Okay, so for this 1 hour yin class, you'll need a few props. 1 or 2 blocks, definitely something to pad. I've got a hand towel here, a bolster, or a pillow. I'm going to show today with the pillow that you may have in your house what you can do for our first pose as we set up. So let's begin. Our first pose is going to be Supta Baddha Konasana, lying bound angle pose. You want to take your bolster or your pillow. If you have a bolster, take it this long way and set your block up. It will depend for your head and your neck what feels best, either the second level or say like the third level. You're going to go ahead and place the bottom of the bolster or the pillow kind of right above your hips, and then rest the block kind of right at the base of your skull, the back of your skull, rather than your neck. So if this is too high for you, go ahead and lower down as another option. Think about opening the arms at the sides, bringing the soles of the feet together and the knees out. If you need to, you can always take some padding, whether it's another block or cushions or pillows, placing them underneath the knees or the thighs right here to give you a little bit more support. All right. Know too that as you're in this pose, you can play with the placement of your feet. You can draw and extend them out or pull them in closer if you kind of need to change the pull on the front of your hips and your inner thighs as we're in this pose. All right, so go ahead as you're here, draw the shoulders down and back, close the eyes and start to breathe in and out through your nose. As you're here, because this is kind of an opening pose for the chest and the heart, think about drawing in larger breaths, kind of like a bellows, extending the ribs out and then letting them draw back in. Settle into a nice long exhale. Try not to rush the breath. I'll be checking my watch for the time throughout the practice. We'll be doing some poses for 3 minutes in length. Some will be a little bit shorter. Some will be transition poses. If you'd like to, and to go deeper, you can always extend your arms behind you for this last minute of this pose. There'll be a bigger opening for the front of the body. If that's not comfortable, you keep your arms still at your sides. Our yin practice is one that helps to kind of elongate not only the muscles, because we're stretching and holding, but really it's more about the connective tissue in the body. We're working our fascia, putting this kind of consistent yet non-aggressive pressure on our joints, namely the tendons and the ligaments. And we're holding poses longer to slowly go deeper so we can, over time, increase our range of motion and, of course, our flexibility. Okay, so from whatever position you were in with the arms, just slowly draw your arms back down at your sides. Take your hands to the outsides of your thighs. Gently use your hands to pull those knees back together. From here, remove the props that are underneath you. so that you're laying on a flat back. And keep your knees hugged into your chest. Go ahead and do a little bit of rocking side to side. And then exhale, let the knees fall down to your left side. You can even roll on your left side. From here, open up the right arm out at shoulder level, palm is turned up, and turn your head to the right. If you're feeling a little tightness in the neck, do a couple head turns left and right. Left and right. And then when you're ready, settle in with the turn to the right. If this pose isn't comfortable and releasing, it should always feel like a real kind of relaxing pose. If you have any lower back strain, you can take a pillow or a block and move into the pose by slowly rolling, keeping both knees bent, and putting the block or pillow here can really help with the lowest part of your spine. If you have anything going on, say in the shoulder or the upper back or neck area, you can change either the turn of your head. Instead of looking right, you may want to look up towards the ceiling or even off to the left a little bit. Another option to modify or vary this pose, if you have something going on in the upper back or shoulder, is simply taking the right hand and instead resting it kind of on the hip or waist, or extending the right arm straight back behind your head. You'll notice if you do this, it does take out a little bit of the twist. Otherwise, if everything feels good, I would say go for this deeper twist. You're in your last 20 seconds of this pose. Make sure you're taking full deep breaths even though we're twisted around the midsection. Bring your gaze back to center. Roll onto your back. From here, you can either stay still if that feels best for the back, or do a little bit of rocking left and right. Continue to breathe, and then on your next exhale, release the knees down to your right. You'll open up the left arm, palm is turned up, and turn your gaze to the left. Once again, feel free to do any modifications that feel good to you, or maybe a little bit of movement once again with the head. Before you kind of commit to this pose and settle into it, always feel free to close the eyes when you're doing a yin yoga practice. The most important part of this practice is time, utilizing the breath and gravity to slowly take you deeper. At the same time, it's really important to kind of cue into your body sensations so you can determine if you should go deeper or if you should stay exactly where you are, or if something is feeling a little bit uncomfortable or aggravated or even downright painful, then you may want to back off or back away from a pose a little bit. Sometimes it helps if you're given a countdown too, so I'll continue to let you know how many seconds are left, especially in some of the poses that you'll feel more. It's kind of nice to know, oh, I only have 20 seconds. I can make this work. You're in your last 40 seconds of this pose. Try to expand the belly out as you take an inhale, letting go and releasing all around the waist. Bring your head back and slowly make your way to your spine again, either staying still or, if it feels good, rocking a little bit left and right. From here, you'll come back to center, start to rock up and down, and then come upright. We're going to move on to all fours. into table pose, just for a couple of cat-cows. Place the hands or the wrists so they're beneath the shoulders and the knees come down beneath the hips. Have your knees about shoulder distance apart. Draw the shoulders back. Begin to relax and release the belly. As it releases down, the tailbone will start to move upwards. Try to open up the heart a little bit more, drawing the shoulders back, lengthening the collarbones. From here, take a nice long inhale through the nose, extending forward and up with the chin, the gaze, and the tailbone even higher. And then exhale, round, pull the stomach in, chin moves towards your chest. Inhale, forward and up. Exhale, round, pull up and in. One more time, inhale, this is your cow. Exhale to your cat. All right, from here we're going to go into a bigger heart opener. We're moving into Sphinx pose. Once again, you may want some props. I'm going to get my timer set up. We're in this pose for 3 minutes. You're going to place your elbows down beneath your shoulders. Your palms are on the mat. Lengthen out nice and long. Point the toes. Find length in the legs. Engage the belly a little bit. Lift the head and the neck up and away from the shoulders. You'll draw the shoulders back and then kind of dig the elbows into the mat to help draw your heart forward. Your gaze can go forward, or if it's more comfortable, you can go ahead and look down at your fingers. Okay. If the belly, if the lower back is feeling a little bit aggravated, drawing in the belly, firming it up a little bit can make a difference. All right, I'm going to show you a couple props that can help with this pose. Usually for, at some point, the low back, if it feels uncomfortable, you can take and place your pillow or bolster beneath your hips. It will lift up the lower half of the body and take some of the curvature out of your back and make this more comfortable. Another thing you can do, if your low back feels fine but you want a little support up higher, is place this pillow kind of underneath your ribs, and you're just digging your elbows in against the pillow to kind of give you support. It helps you kind of focus in on drawing the shoulders back. You'll notice too, as you fatigue in this pose, you'll start to sink down. The shoulders will move up by the ears and you'll round. It's really important to kind of keep returning your focus to the heart, the chest, the shoulders, and think about lifting the head and the neck up and away from the shoulders. Another option some people like is to rest their forehead on the block, depending on how. Usually I don't like the block too low. I like the block up a little higher to help keep the chest open. Once again, drawing the shoulders back. For some of you, you may have some shoulder issues that make this pose a little more uncomfortable, or if it's hard to hold the pose all the way to the end of the 3 minutes, simply kind of extending the arms a little bit out in front of you may be all you need just to hang on a little further. Okay, we're in our last about 40 seconds of this pose. If you want to go deeper at any time, you can always go to straight arms, but try not to shrug. Keep pulling back. This is a variation. It's called seal pose. And if ever that gets too aggravating, of course, return back to your original Sphinx. Try and let the face be calm and quiet as the breath moves. All right, now we can release out of the pose. Just take a moment, laying your forehead into the mat. Go ahead and move any props out of the way if you'd like. From here, we're going to kind of take it the other direction a little bit, releasing the lower back by coming up onto our hands and knees again and moving into a child's pose. take the knees out to the sides. The big toes come together to touch. From here, you'll slowly release your bottom back. And once again, sometimes it feels good to do a little bit of movement between the poses just to get a little more release before we settle in. So then when you're ready, you're going to take your bottom back towards your heels, extend your arms forward, and take your forehead to the mat. Once again, sometimes forehead to the mat is a little too deep for people, so you can rest your forehead on a block. At the same time, some people have knee injuries or low back injuries, and getting your bottom down towards your heels either aggravates the back or the knees. You can take your bolster if you have a longer bolster, or say longer 1 or 2 pillows or a longer pillow. Wedge them underneath the knees, and then you can release back. It gives you more support or lift. It keeps the bottom lifted up, and it's less torque or bend on the knee. So this is another option. All right, for this next part of the pose, I'm going to add a little bit of stretching to the side of the body. Pick up your head, walk your hands all the way over to your right. You should feel a big pull on the left side of the body. Release the left side of your head onto your left arm. Draw the right hand in on the floor, kind of next to the right knee, and just push into the floor with the right hand while you keep releasing the head down. You should feel a nice big pull all along the left side of the body, and especially into the area right around where the upper back meets into the shoulder joint. Okay, lift up the head. Walk the hands back to center, and now slowly over to the left. Release the right side of your head onto your arm. Draw your left hand in and push. Feel the stretch all around the side of the body. Make sure that you're fully breathing in and out. Try to keep your breath in a nice, steady rhythm. And always try to release or go deeper on an exhale. That's really important. All right, pick up your head. Walk your hands back to center. All right. Go ahead and rise up. You'll bring your knees back underneath you. We're going to go into a big opener for our shoulders. If you have shoulder injuries, I'd like for you to not go really deep into this pose, especially if you've had, say, dislocation issues. You can also use a towel if you need it to place underneath the side of your head to rest your head on. For some men who are more muscled around the shoulders or have broader shoulders, literally resting your head on a block, if you have a lot of muscle, can make this pose a lot more comfortable. Okay, so know that you can do that. Have these props ready. I'm going to turn my back to you to show you how I set up in this pose with all of its variations. So here we go. Let me get my clock set again. You're going to extend your right arm out. Once again, shoulder level, palm is down on the floor. Then from here, you'll place the right side of your head onto the mat. If you have any shoulder issues, sometimes moving the hand down a little bit more in the direction towards your hips can ease up some of the pull on your shoulder if you need it. All right, so with the right side of your head on the mat, slowly push away, roll onto the right side of your body. Tuck your bottom in, lengthen the legs, and pull the feet back so that as you look down the front of your body, you should not see your feet or legs. And then now make sure you have some space between the head and the shoulders. So I use my bottom leg to help just kind of guide my head up towards the top of my mat a little bit more. If you would like to go deeper in this pose, you can always raise up the left leg. You'll bend your left knee and place the left foot back down on your mat, just behind that right knee. Another option, the left hand can go and reach behind the back. You can do one or both of these, and if it doesn't feel comfortable, just stay with the straight legs. And in fact, if you find that this is uncomfortable laying on your side, just slightly angle your left hip and belly a little bit more forward, downward towards the mat. And that will take away some of the intense pulling. Now, as you're in this pose, in whatever version of it, you may notice that right arm starts to get numb and tingly. This is normal. Just try to be okay with it. We're helping to kind of put this consistent pressure on the shoulder joint so that we can kind of push out stagnant energy, built up fluids, so that when we leave the pose, we're letting fresh blood flow back into the joint to nourish and moisturize it. So that when we leave the pose and we move to our neutral position again, that's where we reap a lot of benefits for the joint. All right, so if you had any of these variations happening, just come back, bring your left hand in front of you, left leg goes straight, and slowly roll onto your belly. Keep your right arm still. I want you to just let the arm be still. Feel the blood slowly make its way back down the length of the arm. If it feels good, you can kind of wiggle the fingers a little bit. When the arm feels like it's back to normal, just draw it back in alongside you. Okay. We're going to move to our other side in just a moment here. Kind of come forward. Extend your left arm out beyond the left shoulder, palm is down. You'll rest the left side of your face on the mat, a block, or say like a little towel. And then when you're ready, go ahead and push away with the right hand. You're rolling onto your left side. Try not to let your body shape be angled. We want to be lean and long, straight like a pencil. So draw the hips forward, tuck your bottom in, drag the feet back a little bit. Use that bottom left foot to kind of help push the head up and away from that left shoulder. Let your body get used to being in the position, get your breath established, and then at any time if you decide you want to go deeper, you can do any of the variations. The right hand can go behind your back. If it feels too intense, remember you can always angle the right hip forward a little bit. Another variation, lift up the right leg, bend the right knee, and place that right foot back onto your mat behind the left knee. Breathe. Feel free to close the eyes. And you can add or take away any of these variations as you need to throughout the course of this pose. All right, if the right hand was behind your back, bring it forward. If the right knee was bent, extend it straight. Slowly roll onto your stomach. Let that left arm be still. Feel the blood slowly make its way down the length of the arm. You can wiggle the fingers or make little fists with the hand to help. And then when it feels better, go ahead and draw that left hand in. All right, so now comes a time where we're going to finish our practice up against the wall. So if you need to pause the video to move to a place where you've got a wall, go ahead and do that. Bring your equipment with you. It's really important. I'm going to set up and show you how you should place your mat up against the wall. So once again, you want an arm's length on each side of you where you set up. You're going to extend your mat out this way, okay? So perpendicular from your wall. This first pose is a much more intense pose. The rest of the poses will feel a little bit more relieving. One of the great features of a wall is I find it lets you go into a lot of these poses with better alignment. You're being supported, and therefore you can go almost deeper into a pose because you're aligned better, but you also may find that you can release a little more easily because the wall is helping to support you. All right, so make sure you have your block, padding for your knee, either a pillow or a really thick, like folded up towel. And we will begin. Now, this first one is a big opener for the quadriceps and the hip flexors, the muscles here right at the top of the front of the hips. I'm going to give you some modifications if the full pose is a little bit uncomfortable. The first modification I'm going to show you, if you have any knee problems, and pressure on the knees could be a limiting factor for you, you can just lay on your side once again, and you're going to grab your ankle with your hand and pull that leg back. You're bringing your heel in towards your bottom so that you can get a deeper opening in the quads, and also by pulling the knee back to whatever degree you can take it, you're opening up more for your hip flexors. There's a deeper bend in the knee, but there's no body weight pressure on it, so this feels better. If you choose to do this position, I'll let you know halfway through the pose when to flip over and roll to your other side. Okay, so let's go ahead, have your block out in front of you, and what I'd like for you to do is take your padding, whether it's your pillow or your towel, you're going to place it up against the wall. You're going to rest your right knee on the padding. So you're going to just kind of shimmy up against the wall. I'm trying to show you so you can see my knee. I'm resting my knee on my padding, and I'm pointing my toes. They're going up the wall. So from here, we're going to go into a deeper pose. This is where you want to have your block handy. You're going to step your left foot forward. You want to place your block underneath your right hand. Keep the left knee and the left ankle kind of stacked. We don't want to have the foot way back and the knee in front of the toes. It puts a lot of pressure on the left knee. If you can go back further. You're slowly pushing back, maybe resting your hands on your thigh. For some of you, you may be able to go back up against the wall. This is a big, deep opener. For some of you, if this is too much and even leaning forward is too much, you may want to do another variation. For those of you, I already showed the one where you're laying on your side. You can also move into the common pose, which you've probably done before in other yoga classes of mine, Anjaneyasana, where you can still pad your knee, but you're extending the leg behind you, stepping forward, and releasing down this way to still open up. You're doing a big opening for the hip flexors, not so much for the quadriceps, but this is another alternative too. And then at any time you can go deeper, remember you're just pushing the upper body back, keeping the lower half still. All right, so whichever of these poses, we have a few more seconds. If you're laying, if you're on your side, stay there. I'm not going to have you flip because we'll do the other side in a moment. So just stay wherever you are in Anjaneyasana, laying on your side, grabbing the ankle, or the full pose where the leg is up against the wall. If you should get a foot cramp in this bent knee, that would be an indication to then, instead of point the toes up the wall, maybe you're curling the toes just to help with that. All right, this is another pose where it's really important to come out of it slowly because the knee and the ankle may feel it more. In more intense poses, we need to come out slowly. So go ahead and start to lean forward. I kind of take my knee down and I just gently pull away from the wall. I let this leg kind of be stiff, and then when it feels better, I can kind of bend and straight, roll, whatever you like. All right, so if you were doing the pose where you lay on your side, this is now the time where you would flip to the other side, grab your other ankle with your hand and pull back. If you're doing Anjaneyasana, you're going to pad the left knee, step the right foot forward. Big step forward, stacking the knee above the ankle, and then you're releasing kind of down with the left thigh and back. If you're going to do the pose up against the wall, take your padding up against the wall or close to the wall. Bend your knee, place the top of your knee onto that padding. You're pointing your toes up the wall. Once again, if you get a cramp, that's the indication where you would curl the toes. You use your block to help step your right foot far forward. And then place your block into your left hand. Take your time, slowly moving deeper into this pose. Pushing back. Noticing too, if it starts to feel too intense, maybe you're leaning forward or staying where you are. At any time though, if you can go deeper, you're continuing back. If you're already back against the wall, say you have a lot of openness and it's pretty comfortable. For most people it's not, but say you do. Another way to go deeper is hold still against the wall. All you're going to do is simply engage the belly. Draw the belly button in towards the spine. You'll feel it really take off in the front of the quads here. You have 40 more seconds in this pose. Make sure the breath is moving. Try and calm the face. If it helps to close the eyes, go ahead and do that. You're in your final 10 seconds. All right, gently come back forward, make your way down, and carefully pull away from the wall. Letting this left leg slowly open up, letting the blood flow down the length of the leg, and then moving however you would like. All right, here we go, our next pose. I'm going to do a pose called Viparita Karani, legs up the wall. I'd like for you to just take a shoulder and a hip against the wall, it doesn't matter which side. And you're going to, once again, kind of rotate up, take your legs up, scoot your bottom if you can so it's touching the wall. Okay? Now, for some of you, if you're tight in the hamstrings, the backs of the thighs, you may not be able to get the legs fully straight up the wall. If that's the case, then that's an indication to kind of pull your body slightly away from the wall so that you can get the legs as straight as possible and still be comfortable. We're just letting the body get used to being in this kind of inversion. So if you want to, if the legs feel a little numb, you can wiggle the toes, roll the ankles a little bit. We're helping to drain venous blood back down to be brought back to the heart. We're also draining lymph fluid from our extremities to be brought back to the body to be filtered and sent back out. Our lymph is a passive system, so it helps to have gravity draw lymph back. Exercise also helps to move your lymph around. Now, for those of you who want to stay here and you want to just kind of relax, that's fine. Just go ahead and keep releasing, close the eyes and breathe. For those that want to go into a deeper inversion, you can do a wall-assisted shoulder stand. You're going to keep the pressure on the back of your head. Try not to let the back of your neck flatten into the mat. You're going to lift your hips up off the mat, feet against the wall, and you're going to take your hands behind your back. Draw your elbows together underneath and behind you as much as you can and pull the shoulders away from the neck. Then from here, extend the legs up the wall. The heels will be resting. Try and engage the belly. Draw the bottom in as the legs are floating up. Your gaze is going up to the sky and you're breathing. Make sure you have space between the teeth so the breath can flow easily. If this is uncomfortable or you fatigue, go ahead and lower the hips back down to the mat. If you want to go to a full shoulder stand, you can pull away from the wall. Try not to stand with the toes over the head. We want the toes pointed straight up to the ceiling and the belly engaged. If this is too much, you'll go back to either the wall-assisted shoulder stand or you'll release down right back into your Viparita Karani, legs up the wall. This legs up the wall pose is going to be our starting or our home pose that we'll always return to from each of our other poses. Okay, so we've been in this for about 3 minutes to get the body ready to be in this inversion. So if you're in a full shoulder stand or the wall-assisted shoulder stand, slowly guide your hips back down to the mat. Okay, once you're here, kind of see if you need to secure yourself against the wall a little bit more, and then slowly release your legs out to each side, left and right. If this aggravates the inner thighs or the knees, you may want to have the legs up the wall a little bit higher. If it still aggravates the knees, I want you to feel free to do another variation, which is like Baddha Konasana against the wall. So the knees are bent, but they're out to the sides. You're still getting some pull for the inner thighs. For those of you with the legs apart, you may notice after being in the pose for about 6 breaths, 30 seconds or so, that the legs will kind of release. The heels may even lower down a little bit more. Try not to force it though. And take a moment and look left and right. Make sure that your feet are at the same level, and that one side isn't raised higher than the other. We want to keep the hips leveled off. So with this pose, we're stretching out our adductor muscles. They are our inner thigh muscles. You have about a minute left. Okay, take your hands to the outsides of your thighs. Let your arms do the work because the legs are going to be really stretched out and we don't want to aggravate those inner thigh muscles. So use your arms to slowly bring the legs back up to legs up the wall again. Once again, our home base or starting position. From here, we're going to move into our thread the needle against the wall. If you can, once again, re-scoot your bottom in closer to the wall. From here, you're going to bend the right knee, take the right ankle and rest it on top of your left thigh. Flex the right toes so they're pointed upwards, and you're simply pushing the right knee in towards the wall. If you're in this pose and you don't really feel anything, that's an indication that you can go deeper into this right hip. In which case you would start to put a little bend in the left knee and drag the left foot down the wall till you start to feel the stretch into the right hip. Okay. Now I'm going to show you against my side wall so you can see. It's really important when you do this, if you're bending the left knee to kind of go deeper in the pose, that you don't lift the hips off the mat because that will take you out of the pose, kind of away from the stretch that you're trying to get to. So oftentimes I'll see people, I'm going to set up sideways so you can kind of see my hips. So they're in the pose and they think, okay, I can go deeper. I'm going to start to lower down the wall. And as they lower down the wall, they're like, wow, I can go really deep. I can get my foot way down. But they've lifted their bottom, their hips. There's air space here. The trick is to lower those hips all the way back down. And you'll notice as you lower them down, it gets much more intense. You may need to walk that left foot back up the wall. Okay, so make sure you're pushing down and that there's no air space between your backside and the mat. Okay? Go back. You have another minute left in this pose. Going to move Buddha for what we're going to do next. You may notice when you're in this hip opener that it feels different than when you do it in the middle of the room on your mat because we're using the wall. It's kind of confining you and keeping you in a more aligned position so that it goes specifically into the hips and gives you a greater opening. All right, let's gently take the legs back up the wall, release, realign the hips so you feel like you're flush against the wall. Do any little bit of movement you need before we go to our other side. Then when you're ready, you'll bend the left knee Take this left ankle bone, rest it on top of your right thigh. Flex the left toes, push the left knee out to the side until you start to feel the stretch in the left hip and butt area. If you don't feel anything, then once again, that's an indication to go deeper by gently sliding your right foot down the wall, putting some bend in the right knee. Try not to let the left knee kind of curve into your chest. You're still keeping the knee kind of pushed out to your side. And then take notice of your backside as your butt and your hips lifted off the mat. Try and push them back down. Settle into the pose by maybe closing your eyes, breathing in and out, placing your focus into the tight area where you're feeling it, taking in nice big inhales and using your exhales to push the energy from your exhale. Visualize you're pushing energy into that tight area, bringing fresh energy and blood flow in there. And as you push that energy into the hip, you're pushing out tightness and stiffness. You're in about the last 30 seconds of this pose. We need to hold any kind of our hip openers a little bit longer because the hip muscles can get very tight and they need more time. Kind of gently release and let go. Stretching them out takes a little bit longer. Take that right leg up the wall, gently release the left leg up, and we're back to our starting position. All right, so for our last wall pose, we're going to move into a real deep twist. A lot of people like this. Once again, the wall kind of works as a way to kind of support you and guide you into this pose deeper. If you have low back issues, you may want to place a block or a pillow between bent knees. Any back issues, you may want to do this pose with knees bent rather than your legs straight, okay? So, once again, you're flush up against the wall. And I want you to kind of either bend the knees with your blocks, or if you're doing the full pose, kind of gluing the legs together, pull your heels away from the wall. You're going to be engaging the belly. From here, you're going to slowly release the legs down to the floor as you exhale on your left side with control. Once the legs come to the floor, you're opening up the right arm, palm is up, and turning your head to the right. You should feel your hips push and your legs pushing against the wall. If this pose is uncomfortable, the first thing I would do is go into a bent knee pose, doing it like this at the wall. And once again, a pillow or block between the knees can make a world of difference. Another thing, if you have any kind of back issue, you'll notice when I lowered down, I kind of kept my back flat. But if your back is feeling aggravated, I would instead suggest rolling the whole body all the way over to the left. And then you can kind of lay back flat again and open up to the right. This can be a lot safer for someone who has any kind of back aggravation. Let the eyes close. Breath is moving as you relax and release. Once again, the twist should feel very good. And if it feels uncomfortable in any way, do any of the modifications that I suggested to see if you can find more comfort. You have about 1 more minute in this pose. Take your head back to center. Maybe if you have any aggravation, the right hand comes to the hip. You're rolling carefully back and up. If you're doing this with straight legs, re-engage the belly and pull the legs away from the wall. Put a little bit of bend in your knees as you lift the legs up. Come back to your starting position. Then you're going to, once again, pull the legs away from the wall, engage the belly. You'll exhale and slowly with control release the legs over to your right. Open up your left arm, palm is turned up, and turn your head to the left. You should feel the back of the body pushing against your wall. Try to take some kind of bigger releasing inhales and exhales to let go of any tightness around the waist, as this is, as I said, a much deeper twist. You can always modify the position of your head or the position of the left arm to make the pose more comfortable for you. All right, take your head back to center. Put some bend in the knees, re-engage the belly, raise the legs back up. You're back up the wall again. Just take a moment, staying still here to release the spine. And then from here, bend your knees into your chest. If it feels good, you can rock side to side. And then start to push away from the wall, finding space for your body to set up into your Shavasana. So make sure that once you're laid out straight, that the toes or the feet aren't kind of dug into the wall. I want you to find space. And as you lay down and set up, draw your arms out, legs apart, or hands can be on your belly. Pull the shoulders away from your neck. Let the eyes close. If you'd like to, feel free to cover the eyes with an eye pillow or even like say your towel to relax and release. Soften the face. Release the forehead around the eyes and the mouth. Let the limbs start to become more heavy and still. Notice as the breath and the heart rate start to slow down. Use this time to just go a little bit deeper into relaxation. From the yoga practice, this also is a time to let your body rejuvenate and move blood flow and energy around to where it's needed in the body. As you hear the chimes, start to notice the breath, notice the body. Begin to wiggle the fingers and the toes, and deepen the breath. And from here, roll to your right side, deepening the breath even more, but not feeling rushed yet to get up and on with your day. We're slowly coming back to awareness. And now rise up into a comfortable forward seated position, bringing your hands together at your heart, chin towards your chest and eyes closed. My quote today comes from Jimi Hendrix. When the power of love overcomes the love of power, the world will know peace. Thank you for sharing today's yin yoga practice. I hope you feel stretched out, kind of alive, balanced, and carry on feeling good for the rest of your day. As always, the divine in me bows to the divine in you. Namaste. right, thank you everybody. I hope you enjoyed this yin class. I'll be bringing more classes once again in the weeks ahead. Until then,